Okay, it is March 17th, and we are doing another episode of Sunday Sima. We are in chapter 2, The Righteousness of the Emperor, out of Methods of the Sima, verse 6. The nobility of the Yu dynasty swore their oaths in the state capital as they wanted the people to carry out their commands. The rulers of the Chia dynasty made their pledges among the troops as they first wanted the people to articulate their concerns. The Yan made their pledges outside the military camp as they first wanted the people to attend to military affairs. Following the clash of arms, the Zhao made a pledge to comply with the will of the people. The rulers of the Chia rectified their virtue and did not use their swords, so the different types of weapons were not brought together. The Yin were righteous and began by using their swords. The Zhao were strong and used their swords throughout. The Chia gave rewards to the court to show that they valued the good. The Yin staged executions in the marketplace to threaten the bad. The Zhao both gave rewards in court and staged executions in the marketplace to exhort the noblemen and frighten the lowly. And so the three kings expressed their virtue as one. That is interesting about the three kings. Now, there is a footnote here, supposedly established by the sage king Shun, the Yu dynasty, the nobility of the Yu dynasty. So the Jin dynasty, the Chia dynasty, the Zhao. And so the three kings express their virtue as one. So does this mean they had three kings representing for one city? Last time we talked about they using their benevolence to become victorious, but now we're seeing something a little bit different. Next, we're talking about the 5 weapons. Zhao were strong and used their swords throughout. Very interesting. I'm not quite sure what I'm getting from that other than there are 3 different, I guess, ways to kind of manage a nation state or anything like that. And it's kind of a triangle, I guess, of like benevolence, fear, and fear, and maybe communication, I guess. Anyway, let's go over to the Daily Stoic. Maybe something will pop for us. This is by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman, March 17th. The beauty of choice. You are not your body and hairstyle, but your capacity for choosing well. If your choices are beautiful, so too will you be. Epictetus, Discourses 3.1.39b to 40a. This is interesting because I think, like, your capacity for choosing well, if your choices are beautiful, so too will you be. You know, that just goes to show, like, the things that we choose to do versus the way we choose to think about things is what's really important. Because you can have all kinds of influencers out there talking about having, you know, a clean mind and being disciplined and like doing all of this stuff, and it's like, that's great, but like, the person who is like, well, anybody can do drugs, they should all be legal, I don't care if you watch pornography, I don't care if you do this, I don't, you know, I think everyone should live their life the way they want to live. But like, at the end of the day, both sides really just go to show that it's the choices that matter. And so if you choose to be one of these influencers out there talking about, you know, and I mean, it's more often than not, you got like the Bedros guy, and then you've got um oh, I forget what his name is, but he did the Quest, right? He sold Quest, that guy. And a lot of people are just like, Jordan Peterson even is one. It's like, you know, like, don't do these bad things. It's all about what you do in private. And like, if you're going to be a mirror of that, and you're going to tell people to live life a certain way and to live life accordingly to, like, you know, the gospel of the Bible, etc., this holier than thou, and like, this is the only way to live life, and this is the dictate, this is the doctrine, this is the discipline, but yet your choices personally are different, and you're going home and you're doing all of that other stuff. You're choosing to watch too much TV. You're choosing to watch too much pornography. You're choosing to troll too many people on the internet. You're choosing to put your focus into things that aren't productive, progressive, or overall good for the human condition and human nature. And so it doesn't matter how pretty you are. It doesn't matter how much you can get pretty in the mirror. Your capacity for choosing well, it's the choices that you choose, right? These fundamental things: going to work out every day, making that cold call, knocking on that door, following up with that lead, following up with your employee, right? How you make people feel is important, because your choice to bring joy to others, your choice to make people feel good, that is what is going to reflect in you and what people will see in you inherently. It's that line in the movie Fight Club: you are not your job, you're not how much money you have in the bank, you are not the car you drive, you're not the contents of your wallet. Obviously, our friend Epictetus never saw that movie or read the book, but apparently the consumerism of the 90s existed in ancient Rome, too. It's easy to confuse the image we present to the world for who we actually are, especially when media messaging deliberately blurs that distinction, right? So, like, this is what I personally struggle with, and I think so many people and so many young people in the generations after me, which I definitely like, I cannot imagine some of the stuff they have to navigate. But the image that we present to the world for who we actually are is being confused. And in fact, I'm working on a book report for Doppelganger by Naomi Klein, and I think this is really interesting. Where he points this out, and then that whole book is kind of almost about the mirror world, and how politics has gotten so polar, and how everything is almost so black and white, and it's like been this, there's like no longer as much of a gray area, right? We're so divided as a nation, we're so divided as a world. um and so, and there's a great section about where she talks with her students about this person that they are portraying to the world through their resume, through their choices, all the way back to middle school, right? Like, get good grades to go to a good college so that you can, and play sports because it looks good on a college application, and then like all of this stuff, right? It's all, you're being like groomed for this path of what society deems as successful. And so that's why I think Alex Hormozy makes some great points when he's talking about, like, you can do and be a bad person and still become wealthy, right? Like, and I think like that's why it gets such a bad rap when you get there, because you think you have to have like no morals, and maybe that's true. You have to maybe sacrifice what's good for you versus what's good for somebody else. But I mean, then again, you circle that back to Ray Dalio and principles, and you say, look to nature for the answers. And at the end of the day, it's a pretty savage world out there. That's why we do these reflections. That's why we talk about the art of war, is because every day is a battle. Whether you're dealing with a mental health issue and you're battling that internal voice of yours that's saying you're worthless, you're pointless, this isn't worth it, why are you even trying? There's too much to do. The world is done for climb. All of this stuff, that this negative self-talk that leads so many people to be nihilist and black pilled and all of that, versus maybe you are being falsely positive because you are a brand, and you have you know gone down the route of personal branding and having a personal brand and selling your soul essentially to the world, to have a little bit of a piece of you in some way possible. And like, that's what is so interesting to me about that book, is that dichotomous view. And for me, especially being maybe bipolar, depending, it was still a quick diagnosis, and three experts since have said that I'm not. But if the world is able to be so bipolar and dichotomous with the way it tells people to be, and it's so easily expressed in college courses, in influencers, it's so pervasive, and it's so easy to talk about this dichotomy, that it's no wonder we have so many mental health issues in today's day and age. And it's right here. It's easy to confuse the image we present to the world for who we actually are. right? And the media messaging deliberately blurs that distinction. Hollywood sells Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like it sells this machine that feeds on itself, the Ouroboros. And I think, so many artists, right? Despite all the rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. And anyone else who calls out the war machine for what it is, it's this like machine that eats itself in order to try to grow. And that's almost like postulated to the end, such a dark and abysmal nihilistic type thought, because when nothing matters, why do you fight? And so I think finding that ability to separate and know that there is external forces telling you to be a certain way, and it's up to you to know who you are and just make good choices no matter what the world around you is doing. You might look beautiful today, but if that was the result of vain obsession in the mirror this morning, the Stoics would ask, are you actually beautiful? A body built from hard work is admirable. A body built to impress gym rats is not. And that's why health is so important. And not taking certain drugs is important, because some of these things have terrible, terrible side effects, whether it's pharmaceuticals or steroids or illegal narcotics. There's things that you just need to stay away from. And so, if you're going to be building your body to age well, to be in great shape, and to be able to enjoy life is one thing. But to build a body simply because the TV and the magazines are telling you to, and you think that's the message from society, you are trapped and you are living in that mirror world, right? Because you're just paying attention to the magazine, to the TV, to the whatever that's on the other side of that camera, and you're confusing yourself with what reality is. And that is, I mean, it's just like that line of thinking really piques my interest. So let's finish this out. That's what the Stoics urge us to consider: not how things appear, but what effort, activity, and choices they are a result of. So, not how things appear, but what effort, activity, and choices they are a result of. And anyway, that's why I think Alex Hormozy kind of hits it on the head when he's saying, like, whatever you choose to do, it's up to you to decide how those choices affect you. You can be a bad person and still get rich, because there are still things that you can do that just make you rich. If you just follow that path, you can lie, cheat, steal, embezzle. And like he has personal experience with that happening, where he got scammed out of a lot of money. And it's a lesson. Mainly the lesson I take away is, always get things in writing. That's the best way to go about it. I know that's not always possible depending on the speed of business that you work in. But back to the things appearing, right? How are we considering? What are we considering? Are we considering things for what they actually are? Are we being honest with ourselves in the mirror instead of being caught in the mirror world, in the black mirror, right? That's why I think so many of these TV shows are very prophetic in a lot of ways, because they deeply analyze that internal struggle that many of us are a part of, just simply because of this world that we've been born into, full of this great technology. And as AI and the dawn of this virtual intelligence that we're building, I know that most everyone's really concerned about the artificial general intelligence. And from my understanding, these large language models are not like true AI, because they're not coding themselves yet. And without getting too like technical and show my ass, because I don't know what I'm really talking about, but I'm just kind of like going based off of like the Charlie Mungerism of like relational thinking and inverse thinking, because like, right, because like it just makes more sense that a company would want to sell this is like, this is AI, when it's really not, but it's just like the only catchphrase that's selling right now, when it's artificial general intelligence that we need to worry about. And again, I don't know. I don't think Chat GPT or any of these AIs are coding themselves. You know, I think what I do think, not necessarily what I do believe, though, is that we're entering a very scary state of human affairs, and I think a lot of us and what most of us need to be doing is learning AI, but I think many of us fear to because the more we understand it, the more fragile our reality becomes.